Okay, good evening everybody. So we're going to talk about the next section, which is solving inequalities using multiplication and division. I'm going to go through this quickly because the process is very much the same as before. It's just different operations. And in doing so today, if you need to pause, please use the pause button. Make sure you're writing lots of fifth color and, of course, writing the colors that I'm writing in. Okay, so as we look at this first problem, I would argue that you guys probably know the first step already because it's the same as the last step. And that first step is to change the inequality to an equal sign. Okay, every time that's what we're going to do. So there we go. And then my next step, of course, is to get x by itself. So I'm going to divide by 5. You're probably starting to realize why we work so much on solving equations early in the year, so that this stuff is just automatic. Okay, and then what I have there, what do we call this thing right here? This is called my dividing point. Okay, so now I'm going to draw my graph. So it looks something like that. And again, I put 0 in the middle for reference, and the side of 0 that this dividing point should be on the left side. Notice that I didn't even change it to a mixed number. I'm going to leave it just like it is because I really just need the side that it's on, just like that. All right, and now the next thing is, this is what a lot of students are still struggling with, is we need to test a point. And so I'm going to test my test is going to be 0. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I plug 0 right here back into this original inequality. So way back at the top, I'm going to say 5 times 0 is that symbol, -9. Okay, so 5 times 0 is 0, and that symbol, -9, so that says 0 is less than -9, and that is false. Since that is false, that means this is false, which means this entire side is false. All these numbers over here are false. So that is false, which means that this side over here must be true. One side is false, one side is true. Oh, and I forgot to put my dividing point in. So I go back and look at the symbol, and that symbol tells me that I should have a donut. And my donut is there over the dividing point, and then I'm going to draw my line towards the true side. So the last thing I need to do is write my inequality. Please don't forget that. Underneath the dividing point, I write my arrow. I draw my number. Under my line, I put my variable. In this case, it's x. If I do those two things, then my answer is always less than. So the answer to this is x is less than -9/5. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Okay, same thing. This time we have a division problem, but my process is the same. So the very first thing I'm going to do is change to an equal sign. Y over 7 equals 6. Okay, then I'm going to solve. So the way I get rid of my denominator, whenever I want to get rid of a denominator, I multiply. The opposite of division is multiplication. So then y is equal to 36. So then, once I have y equals 36, that means I just found my dividing point. So now I can plot it on my graph. So right here is 0, and so 36 then is going to be to the right of it. So there's my 36. And then the last thing I need to do, I need to put in my dividing point. So my dividing point is going to be a dot because it does have the line. And then the last thing I'm going to do is test my point. So again, I'm going to test 0 here. I'm going to test 0 and plug it into 0 over 7 is greater than or equal to 6. So 0 is greater than 6. That, of course, is false. 0 is not greater than 6. Therefore, my line, so that means that this side is false, which means this side is true, and my line goes towards the true side. Does not always go away from 0. It depends on if it's true or false. The last step I have is to write my inequality. So under the dividing point, I write 36. Under the line, I put my variable, in this case a y. If I do those two things, then I always use the less than symbol. And because this is a dot and it has the line, that means that it will also have the line underneath. So there's my answer right there. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Once again, I have an equation, or an inequality, excuse me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to an equation. So I have -4x is equal to 11. And this is the one where it's super important that you do this. If you haven't been doing this up to this point, you've been getting them right, and you think, oh, this is stupid, why do I got to do this? Here's where you start getting them wrong. Remember, we're not trying to solve the hard ones, easy ones, we're trying to solve the hard ones. So I teach you with the easy ones and lead you to the hard ones. So here's where's your first chance where you get to see why this matters. So, okay, so there we go. I changed it to the equal sign. Next thing I'm going to do is get x by itself. So I'm going to divide by -4 on both sides. And x is equal to -11/4. I just found my dividing point. So now I can plot my point like that. And that's a 0. -11/4 should be to the left of my 0. So like that. And then above it is going to be a dot because I have the equal to sign. And now my next step is I need to find which side is true. So again, I'm going to test 0. So I come up here and I put -4 times 0 is greater than or equal to 11. 0 is greater than or equal to 11. That, of course, is false. That is not true. So again, 0 was false. Remember, 0 is not always false, but in this case it was. That means this side is true, and my line goes towards the true side. I'm now ready to write my inequality. Underneath my dividing point, I write my number. Under my line, I write my variable, in this case an x. If I do that, then I always use the less than symbol, and it's x is less than or equal to. So there's my final answer right there. So this is an important one. What you might notice here is that for the first time, my symbol here is different than my starting symbol. If you look back at all the other problems that we've done the last couple days, these two symbols have been the same, and so students have been kind of like, oh, well, you know, whatever. But the way I set this up is that you won't have to worry about which way that symbol goes. Okay, and the last one. Here we go. We have this one. It's same type problems, maybe one extra step, but still the same type problems. So the very first thing I'm going to do is the same, and that is 4/5 z, this symbol, 2. Whoops, I forgot to do that. That's sorry. That should be an equal sign, not an inequality. Equals, there we go. Now on this one, I want to get rid of my denominator first. I hate denominators, so I'm going to get rid of them. The way I get rid of denominators is I multiply, and I multiply by what I want to get rid of. So every time I want to get rid of this denominator right here, I just multiply it. So then I multiplied both sides. So these simplify out, and I'm left with 4z. If you've been doing a good job on your equations, and this probably isn't that big a deal to you, but if you've not been working very hard on your equations, then it might be a little bit trickier for you. So last step is divide both sides by 4. So z is equal to 10/4. What I just found was my dividing point. Now I can plot it on my graph. So I got 0 here and 10/4. So now I can come back up here and plug in 0 for z, 4/5. Remember, you always go back to your original inequality. So here we go, 0 is less than or equal to 2, and that is true, and I'm glad it's true because every other time they've been false. This one is true, so, oh, I got to put in my dividing point. So I look at my symbol, it should be a dot, and the line goes towards the true side. So this time it goes towards 0, and then I can write my inequality, which is z and 10/4, and then it is the less than or equal to symbol. Okay, so there we go. That's the lesson for the night. Multiplication and division is not that much different than addition and subtraction. The steps are all the same. It's a different operation to get your dividing point. All right, have a great evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Please make sure you add lots of fifth color and are copying the notes correctly. We're having some people that are not copying down the notes correctly. Make sure you're watching that. Okay, see you tomorrow.